Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Bedford, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joining you virtually, not in person and not live today, but virtually to deliver this keynote talk for your Defense Dyslexia Network session today. I'm really pleased to be here and to join you. The session is called You Don't Have a People Problem, You Have a System Problem. Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to be here as your keynote speaker today and join you. I want to say a special thank you to Lisa and Kirk for the very kind invitation to be here with you today. Let me start with a little bit about myself. I won't bore you with all the details, but as I said, my name is Mike. I'm an executive coach, author, and speaker who specializes in working with neurodivergent clients and organizations to improve performance. Over the last few years, I've worked with individuals and teams both across public and private sector environments where people are very capable, but the systems around them make success much harder than it needs to be. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. What's making success harder than it needs to be? Not awareness, not labels, but what's actually happening in your training environments, in your workplace, and what can you do differently to improve performance? If someone struggles in your training environment, the default question is usually, what's wrong with them? But I want to offer you a different question, and that's what's making success harder than it needs to be? Because most of the time, it's not the person. It's in fact the system that they've been placed into. Listen, here's the reality of the situation. You're all operating in high pressure environments. That matters. Time matters. Consistency matters. So your systems are built and designed for control, but people don't come in standard issue. Some people process things quickly. Some people need time. Some need clarity before they act. Some act and figure it out as they go. So when someone struggles, what you're often seeing isn't a lack of capability. It's a mismatch between the person and the way that the system expects them to perform. I'm sure this will look familiar to many of you. You may recognize this. You give an instruction. It's clear, it's direct, it's time-bound. Most people get on with it. They get moving. But one person doesn't. They hesitate. They ask you to repeat the instruction. Or they say nothing. They guess. They try to fill in the blanks themselves. But now the pressure's on. The group's moving. Time's ticking. And now that person's behind. So what happens next? Slow things down. They get labeled as lacking confidence. They start second guessing everything. Here's the bit we often miss. They didn't lack capability. They lacked a system that worked for how they process. Let me translate what's actually happening here for you. What you see is hesitation, repetition, delay. What you might assume then is a lack of confidence. What's actually happening is a difference of processing under pressure. Same capability, different route to get there. And if the system only supports one route, some people will always look like they're the problem. And over time, this compounds. Those people become less likely to ask for help, more likely to mask their way through situations, more likely to guess and fill in the blanks themselves. Performance drops, not because they can't do the job, but because the environment makes it harder than it needs to be for them to do so. Eventually, what happens is they stop asking altogether. That's not a confidence problem. That's a learned behavior in response to the system. So here's my challenge to you. If people can only succeed in your training when they think like you aren't building capability. You're selecting for similarity. And in defense, that's a risk. We've been taught something that sounds right, but isn't. Confidence comes first. Ask for help. Build confidence. Then performance improves. But we know that's not how it works. Confidence is the outcome of a system that feels safe enough to engage with in the first place. If your system doesn't feel safe, people won't ask, no matter how capable they are. Let's talk about success enablers, because if you want people to perform at their very best, you need to design for it. 3 things really matter here. They are self-enablers. So does the individual have clarity? What does good look like? What matters right now? What happens next? Without clarity, people hesitate. People enable it because how you show up matters. Are you predictable? Are your responses consistent? Do people know what they'll get from you under pressure? People don't ask for help when they feel exposed. System enablers. This is the one that most organizations avoid. How are instructions given? How is time pressure applied? How is performance measured? Because if your system only works for one type of thinker, that's not high performance. That's fragile. Let's bring this back for a moment to asking for help. What actually stops people asking for help? Fear of judgment? Previous shutdown responses? Not knowing how to ask, so they stay quiet until it's too late. But asking for help is not a weakness. It's data. It tells you where your system isn't working. Now, here's the moment that matters most. Someone asks for help. Your instinct might be to repeat the instruction, maybe louder, maybe faster, but that doesn't solve the problem because the issue is not effort. It's how the information is landing. What works is this. Slow it down. Clarify the steps, the noise. Give them a clear next move. Because in that moment, you're not testing resilience. You are shaping whether they can succeed. You don't need more awareness training. You need better designed environments. Because when the system works, people don't just cope, they perform. And in defense, performance isn't a nice to have. It's mission critical. So if your system only works for some people, it's not just inefficient, it's a risk. Because the moment someone can't engage, they can't process, they can't ask you for help, you don't just lose confidence, you lose capability. So the next time someone is struggling, don't ask, what's wrong with you? Ask this. What's making success harder than it needs to be? Thank you for the work that you do. I know that the environments that you operate in are demanding, are high pressured, and the standards that you all work to is extremely high. If this session does anything for you, I hope it gives you a slightly different lens, not just on the people in front of you, but on the systems that shape how they perform. Thank you for having me. I hope you have a good rest of the session. Bye for now.